Welcome to an episode of Connect the Dots. Today I'm joined by Brian. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jack. Excited to be here.
Brian, why don't you start by telling our guests a little bit about yourself and the business, please?
Yeah, thanks. So, Bryan Hack, I'm the founder and principal of BHC Group, so Bryan Hack Consulting Group. We've been in operation now 10 years this year. Prior to that, I've been an implementation consultant of ERP systems, so enterprise resource planning, worked for two partners running around Canada to
Hmm.
forestry mills, mine sites, oil and gas, government and not-for-profit, wholesale distribution companies, implementing ERP systems. Did that for 10 years, got a little tired, decided to then join a startup management consulting firm, helping companies be on the other end. They're looking to buy software. So instead of working for a vendor who sells it, I'm now
Right.
working as the customer, helping them find the right product and then ensuring that when they go through their implementation that they've got the right resources and are good to go. I did that for 4 years. I decided at
Nice.
that point it was time to go out on my own fully and leave the nest and sort of did the hybrid approach. So we help customers on two sides. One doing advisory independent software selection services. That can be tied to ERP systems, to HR management systems, financial planning and analysis, AP automation, document management, maintenance management, any of those sort of systems that orbit the primary ERP system for
Right.
small, medium enterprise. We can help with our consulting engagements. Once they've selected a system, then we can help them implement it, acting as an internal resource, fulfilling resource capacity constraints internally, essentially, staff augmentation, bring on someone who knows the industry, the product, generally speaking, and how to implement ERP or those other systems successfully. And on the other side, because we've got a group of very senior experienced consultants that have specific software knowledge, we provide some software services to clients who are being left alone or orphaned
Hmm.
by their existing partners or vendors. We can provide support as needed, whether it's upgrades, system migrations, operational efficiencies, improvements, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. I was going to ask, what problem are you trying to solve, within the consultant space?
Yeah, essentially what we see is partners sell their software. They're focused
Hmm.
on selling as many partners as they can into the mix or solutions into the mix. And then customers have to try and take that knowledge and implement it internally and own it. A lot of times it's not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
internal organizational change. There's buy-in from different people. It's one thing to say, hey, we're implementing a new system. And then people actually need to use the new system and stop doing what
Yeah.
they've been doing for, 2 or 3 years or upwards of 30 years using the
Yeah.
same system. So where we bridge the gap is we help them figure out what's the right system for them. And we're not just picking a system because their buddy in the same company or the same
Yeah.
industry has that software. We're there to help them pick and then to help them implement. So we're going to manage that change. We're going to manage that project. We're going to identify the risks. And so there's a lot of value that we add to our clients as they're implementing and rolling out a new system.
I was going to ask, why do so many businesses still struggle with execution? Even when they may have, I guess, strong strategies.
Yeah, I think, it comes down to constraints and priorities.
Right.
A lot of times people or organizations say, yeah, we can do it on our own. But then it comes second to, hey, it's month end, so our accounting team, our finance team, are unavailable. Or
Yeah.
now it's year end. Oh, the auditors are here. Oh, we've got some compliance regulations we have to do. So all of a sudden, then those take priority over the ERP, and then the ERP lags or those system implementations lag a little bit. That can then cause delays, which then eat up budget, and then that requires a change order, and then that gets more cost.
Right.
So I think those are sort of key areas. And then, if clients are used to implementing a certain system, well, an ERP or an HRMS, those are overhaul throughout the entire organization. It doesn't affect
Yeah.
just one department, which some companies think it does. There's a ripple effect. And so we try and support clients in understanding what that ripple effect is throughout the organization and how to manage that.
And how has the industry changed, I guess, with not just with AI, but how has the industry changed, I guess, in the last 3 years?
Yeah, I would say it's becoming a little bit more do it yourself. Vendors in some cases are trying to sell the software and then have other people implement it for them. or if
Yeah.
they're implementing it, they're getting very busy and then they're struggling to find the resources to implement. Um, what they're also seeing is a bit more uptick in rapid application or rapid implementation deployment. So they're saying, here's best practice. We can do this in 3 months. We can do this in 6 months. Here's the roadmap. But that's geared to a standard. That's not
Yeah.
the uniqueness of an organization. So even though the vendors and system integrators are trying to sell and implement software more or sell more of it and implement it quicker and move to the next piece, there's that gap between, oh, wait a minute, my business doesn't operate or fit that need of how you implement. And sometimes there can be some, head to head there.
Yeah.
That can lead to challenges and issues. I think AI is another big one that's coming through the mix. A lot of people are talking cloud AI and AI ERP. But again, those are sort of rapid tools that are being deployed that isn't for everybody. It
Yeah.
also comes down to clients understanding their data and how clean then the quality of their data is, because you can't start automating something that's incorrect. That's going to cause
Correct.
more issues downstream. So I've seen a few more of those types of things, and then maybe consolidation in the marketplace. A lot of vendors are acquiring other vendors and becoming larger and larger organizations with a bit more red tape and more layers and legal reviews, and so things just take longer. And then there's that requirement to push to go live faster, to bill for that milestone, to get paid and move on, whether the client is happy or not.
Right.
Not saying it's all doom and gloom, by
Yeah.
all means, but those are some things that we're seeing in the marketplace, that can be quite challenging for customers to navigate.
Absolutely. I was reading on the website that you emphasize ESG principles in the business. Why is ESG becoming more important for modern organizations?
Yeah, I think, when you're looking at environmental, and governance and how companies and social impact, how they affect the organization, I think governance is especially important. um, that is going to lead to better decisions. It's going to be lead to more timely decisions. If things are going off the rails, we can escalate sooner to stakeholders who are supposed to govern the project and make sure that things are moving forward in a timely manner, um, and clear roadblocks. And if that's not happening, then things take longer and generally they charge more. Um, Social impact, I think, and environmental, maybe less environmental, but on the social side, a lot of clients, they want to have the latest and greatest technology as well.
Hmm.
But then their staff can't necessarily handle that, or they want it. And if they don't get it, they're going to leave to go somewhere else who's going to give it to them. So
Yeah.
some of those things will make people's day to day, month to month jobs easier, using AI, for example. If an organization is saying, no, we're not using AI, and they can go somewhere else and use AI, that's going to make their life easier and better. And they don't have to do the same thing over and over again when an agent or something like that could
Yeah.
happen. Um, that does play into it as well. And then just giving back to the community and being involved with not for profits and discounts and things like that, can become important as well.
Absolutely. Where can our audience and listeners find you, Brian, in the business, please?
Yeah, so a couple of things, our website is the bhconsultinggroup.com. You can find me on LinkedIn as well under Bryan Hack. My tag after that might be CPA, so Chartered Professional Accountant, and CMC, Certified Management Consultant. So yeah, generally directly through the website. We've got a contact us page. All those emails go directly to me as the owner and founder. Same thing through LinkedIn. Yeah, those are probably the primary sources.
Thanks, Brian. And I know how you help organizations, make a huge change. Can you share any examples where, you've walked away and thought, we've done a fantastic job there, or the clients left super happy?
Yeah, for sure. I think, one especially comes to mind because I asked them for a reference for another opportunity. And, in his email, he's like, for sure, the best thing since sliced bread. I'm like, oh, that's a cool one. No one's ever said that. But, where I've come in or my team has come in, it's really just to take charge of a project
Mm,
and, work with the vendor. So, as a project manager or a change manager or project governance, we're there to work with the vendor to take it off the side of the desk of the controller or the CFO or the director of finance or VP finance, who have other things to deal with. So they've said to me, I've got a business to run, I've got operations. We
yeah.
want to manage this project. Can you do it? And I've said yes, and we've proven ourselves that we can manage the project. We escalate where needed. We're testing the system. We're defining a better UATs or user acceptance test scripts. We're working with the end users. We're holding their hand as they go through it, making sure they're comfortable with it. And then we continue to bring in the executives and stakeholders to the proper meetings to say, yeah, we're on track, or no, we're not. This is what we need from you to clear the way. And then ultimately work with them at go live and cut over to ensure that they know what's next. And then ultimately achieve that go live, which, is the beginning, not the end,
Hmm.
because now someone has to own that system and work with it. And we can stay on and provide that support and that transition care to ensure they're going. So, by just being present, working with the right team, having the right attitude and the right relationship where we're not seen as just a vendor and a cost. It's more
Yeah.
of a partnership and an investment.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
types of clients really like working with us and we like working with them, and we achieve better success and quicker results. And that then leads into future opportunities. And, we've seen it.
True.
I've got clients that are 9 years, 10 years, 15 years with me in my group. That precedes the start of the group where, we just keep adding that value and we do something really well on, say, the ERP, and then like, "That went really well. Can you help us with our HR system?" Great, let's rinse and repeat the process. The methodology is the same and the output is the same from success. And then, "Hey, we really like that. Let's do it again with financial planning and analysis," or "Let's do it again for AP automation." "Oh, hey, now we want some document management. How do we tie this together?" Or, "Hey, we want a data warehouse or a data lake to start doing reporting and have
Yeah.
data visualization. Let's do that now." So,
Yeah.
not to say we're in there and out. It's we trying to
Yeah.
build that
Oh.
partnership and relationship where we become their go-to, one-stop shop, one throat
Yeah.
to choke type of thing,
Yeah.
where we can have that good trust with them and then ultimately be a trusted advisor where if they're thinking of technology change or organizational change on systems, that they would bring us into those conversations. So yeah, many references from ERP selection to ERP implementation, and again, all those other surrounding systems that orbit the ERP, we've done a lot there and add a lot of value to our clients.
Yeah, it's like once you prove that trust and you can then, what else can you do for that business and come on that journey is you mentioned a partnership, a growth partner.
Yeah.
I guess I would love to ask, what is the biggest challenge around when you do sort of organizational transformation, what is the biggest challenge you see around that?
Um, I think, other sometimes it's the capacity. So the
Mm,
resources that you're trying to organize only have so much time.
of
I think
course.
the clients, the executive sponsors really need to buy into why we're doing it and what it takes to do it. So it takes time and money. Those are two things that
Mm.
firms like to protect, right? They don't want to do things that aren't adding value, and they don't want to do things that cost too much and there's little return for. So it's
Yeah.
showing and working with that internal stakeholder to recognize, hey, here's what it takes. Here's more of a better assumption or better expectations on this is what it actually takes. So I think those challenges become expectations. They think, hey, we can do this in 3 months for this amount, where it's more like, no, this is six to
Yeah.
nine months and this is the
Yeah.
ballpark, right? Or
Yeah.
hey, I need some of your resources in, you know, the vendor wants to do 6 or 8 hour workshops this week. So I need 2 hours for 4 days. And then guess what? They want to do it again next week or the middle of next week. But you have homework to do. That
Yeah,
homework's
yeah,
going to take
yeah,
4 to 8 hours to do the homework. Whereas they just think, oh, there's a meeting. I got to show up to the meeting, and they come unprepared and they leave like, okay, I'm just going to go back to my job, and they come to the next meeting unprepared. So
yeah.
expectation setting, I think, is a big gap that's missing. And that can cause issues as you proceed. And again, that's, where we fill the gap as part of our thing on the website is
Yeah.
ensure that that
Yeah.
gap doesn't exist. And we're supporting the homework. We're following up. We're making sure things are moving forward in order for that project to stay on track.
What excites you the most about where the business is essentially going in the next, say, 1 to 2 years?
Yeah, I think we're gaining in leads and opportunities. We're starting to close more and more projects,
Nice.
getting into some interesting and bigger projects in different industries, which is great for us. I think, we're a boutique consulting firm, so we're not here to take
Mhm.
on 10, 20, 30 clients
Every
a year. We're
Yeah,
looking to
yeah,
take on like, 3, 4, 5, depending on the scope and size of the project. I love working with my team. They're all experienced, have great experiences and value to add to all of our projects. I think where we're starting to see a bit of diversity in the services that we offer for different systems and getting great warm introductions. That's the best way for us to close a project or an opportunity and move into a project is, an existing client or an old client that says, "Hey, we had a great experience with Brian. I'm now at this company and we want to do it
Yeah.
again. Are you
Yeah,
available
it's
to work with
nice.
us?" I feel like there's 3 or 4 in the last 3 months that have had that come through, and, I'm hoping that it'll all close in the next couple weeks or month and plan
Brilliant.
out the rest of the year.
Yeah, it's always great when, people go to different companies and come back to your services. Yeah,
Yeah, and you know what?
absolutely.
We hit our 10-year milestone this year in April. So for
Congrats.
me, that's a huge achievement.
Amazing.
Shows that we can outlast the storm. We've got the right customer base and the right resources to stand by and with us. And I think it's just, onwards and upwards, as they say.
Good for you, buddy. Congratulations. I got to ask, we have a lot of C-suite and founders listening, but we also have a lot of younger professionals. Do you have any advice for our younger audience who are maybe thinking about getting into the space? I know maybe not straight into consultancy, but do you have any advice in general for our younger audience looking to make that leap into the next step of their career? I guess.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I started as a junior consultant myself. I was 21 or 22, very green, going into a firm, but I came in learning the software or having software knowledge of how the system works. Consulting, not so much, but I was able to sit on help desk. I was able to go out on consulting calls with other senior consultants, and essentially we're told, don't touch, don't break it, but learn from me. But you're the expert and you become the expert on the software. And I think in today's day and age, there's so many small, medium enterprise software systems out there. And if you've got a passion for, the accounting or the ERP side, or if you like HR, or if you're more on the analytics and want to do the financial planning,
Yeah.
budgeting, and forecasting, know your domain, but then start to become an expert in one or two different software systems. And AI is obviously helping with that to get people up to speed on, hey, this is how the system works. So that's always a great place to start. And then you can go to system integrators or vendors and say, hey, I know how the software works. I want to learn consulting. I want to learn on what it takes to become a consultant and work your way up from a junior consultant. In the back in the day, I used to be like, go build financial reports or build this report layout or build the
Yeah.
integration or set something up. So I'm not customer facing per se, interacting with the client. I'm doing behind the scenes setup and config. And then I would get pulled into a meeting and then learn how that engagement works and then what to listen for and when to, chime in or when to give your input and then start adding value from that perspective. I think is a great way for someone who wants to get into the game to start understanding and become a consultant. And then a senior consultant is, yeah, know your domain, know your product knowledge, and then the consulting experience will come with time. That's not something you can go from 0 to 100 with without going through the paces for sure.
Absolutely. Brian, thank you so much.